This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
Okay, hi. Thank you. Thank all of you for being here. And is this on?
Your mic on.
It's on. Can't hear?
Let's move this up.
It's cute.
Try that.
And we thank all of you for being here. And we thank RVML for having us. And, you know, I've been an artist almost my whole life, full time. And I started out typically doing a landscape kind of thing, and impressionistic. And while doing this, at times, this other work would come through. And this is what was really intrigued me. And I had no control over this. But as time went on, this work became more dominant, more the spirit-filled, mystical. And I knew that one day that would come to be reversed. Instead of doing the landscapes to support life, that the visual would be the main work. And there's a lot of I always figured that there was a lot of more than putting paint on canvas. It had to be, there was something more to it. And I figured if you could reach the point where you could put that feeling, that emotion that's coming through onto that canvas and project that out to the viewer, then you have something. And it seemed to go that way. And there are times when people are able to identify with that. And I remember once in the gallery I had just finished a 16 by 20. The subject matter was very, a little abstract, but I was able to get that emotion on there. And this woman came in, and she went right straight to this piece, and she stood there, and I was watching her, and I didn't approach her, I let her be, and I knew she was making contact with this painting. And all at once I saw her reach into her purse, and she pulled out a tissue, and she started wiping her face. And I thought, that was worth $1 million, because I knew I had touched her. And from here, from that canvas coming back was what I had been after. But I had to go through a lot of work, a lot of painting, and realize what was going on, that this was coming through. I just did it. I had no pre drawings, nothing like this. And I came up to her and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "I'm just feeling this artist." And I thought, she said, "Who is this?" And I kind of, it's me. And she says, "Oh." I said, "I'm taken with this painting." And so she says, "I have to leave, but I will come back this afternoon." And she came back later with her daughter, and her daughter had the same reaction to the piece. But they ended up buying 2 pieces at that time. And then on the weekend, they brought her husband and her son back, and the husband came up to me and said, "I just want to thank you and to let you know that I totally approve of the paintings my wife bought."
Can you speak up a little bit?
The mic's tipped down.
Yeah. And so I said, "Oh, thank you," and all this kind of thing. I said, "But we want to look around." So they did. And that day when they left, they bought 5 more pieces. But, and everything that they had bought were the visionary spirit pieces. No landscapes, none of your regular everyday paintings. There's a lot of stories like that. The thing that was, to get to that creative process, when you get to that point where this is just coming through and it's just happening, that's heaven. It's hard to describe that until you kind of experienced it. You know, you felt this. You just go ahead. I'm just a tool. There was another situation where another woman came in the gallery, and I had done a 24 by 36 piece and real light mystical blues. And she went up to this painting and she says, and what it was a female figure, but very vague. She says, "That's my daughter." And I looked at her and she says, "I've been having this dream for about 2 months now. And this is exactly what I've been seeing." And I thought, boy, this is really getting close. You know, and she said, well, it happened about 1.5 years ago. Her daughter was killed in an automobile accident in Chicago. And she'd been having that dream for the last 2 months. And she said, you know, I have to have that painting. And I said, you know, several things like that have happened with that particular work. Now I've been doing 90% of the work is all the visionary, mystical pieces. And still do the landscapes just to keep grounded. You got to get off track a little bit and get back on again. You know. But it's on this mystical vibration pieces here, this video. Well, I'll back up. For about the last 8 years, I've been doing digital work, digital painting. And prior to that, I did a lot of airbrush and brush work on canvas. 8 years ago, I got a few paint programs, loaded them into the computer, and found that I could do 10 times more than what I could ever do out here. I'm able to mix the digital watercolor with the oil and the pastel, and you get all these mediums and a great range of color to work with. But still, being the computer is just a tool. And I just took to it like water. That was it. And the work that I've been doing since then has gone from here to here, and it just keeps going higher. And it just keeps coming. I have so many images on discs that you wouldn't believe. I can't stop. It's a passion, and it just keeps coming. And I just sometimes I spend almost all night. And here comes. When it's there, so you got to do it. I played one of his CDs, and right at this time when I played that, I was just starting to do these visionary, abstract, pure color energy pieces. And I did one, then I did another, and they just kept coming and coming. And then I realized that, boy, they remind me of Stephen's music. They just seem to fit. So I went and ran a couple of proofs, showed them to him. I said, what do you think? I think they fit my music. And we should make a DVD, right? So, but in that, it's like I was led to do that, to his Stephen's music. And where does this, that's part of that. I don't start out with a drawing or anything. It just comes through. I used to have a gallery on Maui in Hawaii. And up in the mountains, there was this one area, waterfalls, little creek rivulets and footbridges. And when the clouds come in, they kind of settle right down to the ground. And from the gallery, I could see up there. And usually when it starts to rain, the tourists, they leave. I realized this, first time I went up there, I thought, oh man, this place is something else. Very serene, and you can just, you're filled. But the tourists were too, and it was taking away. I realized that when it started to rain, I would jump in my car and I'd drive up to the top. And I'd wander around there by myself. There's benches you can sit on. You can sit. Great place for meditation. Great place for meditation at that time like that. And so when I felt like I needed to be filled and revitalized, I would run up there. If it was raining, just light mist, and just walk through these clouds. And I'd come back, and you couldn't hold me down because things just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. So you almost drained. You go back and get filled up again. And it's, I have to think. I had another situation where this woman with her daughter, and the little girl was about 7 years old. She came in the gallery, and the little girl went right straight to this small little painting. And I had three children, and I used to put them in the landscapes. At this time, she went right to this painting, and she says, told her mama, "Look at these people in here." And her mother pulled her back. But the little girl was just zeroed right in on it. Just went right to it. And I thought, man, 7 years old, fantastic. I talked with him, we talked a little bit. I talked to the little girl. And I went over and I took the painting off the wall, and I read down, I said, "What is your name?" And she told me her name, and I wrote it on the back, and I gave it to her. And the mother says, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't, we don't have the money to pay for that." And I said, "It's not about the money. I'm not interested in money. There's something for this meant for her." She went right to it, and it's not about the money. I didn't want to hear about the money. It was beautiful the way this little girl was. So her mother was, okay. They left. And her mother, about 10 minutes later, they come back in. The mother said, "Well, let me pay for the frame." I said, "No, it's not about the money." It's not about the money. This painting belongs to her. And she just was beside herself, So off they go. That's fine. When you get to the creativeness again, and that's what people always ask, well, where do you get this stuff from? And that's what you tell them. I do a lot of meditation and try to stay as centered as possible and open. And I'll just sit there, and I have a drawing pad, and this hooks to the computer, and you have a stylus type pen, and this pen will do airbrush, effect, water, whatever you want it to do, it'll do. And right there on the monitor is what you're doing. And what I'll do is, usually I'll start with an airbrush, abstract background, watercolor. Do that, set that aside, do something else, set that aside, send something else, maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8 small files. And then come back in and take part of this one, and part of this, part of this, part of this, part of this, and then bring them together to get to that one image. And it seems that a lot of times that one thing will lead to another, And that creativeness just keeps you going further and further and further out, right? Is in the past when people have bought, I remember I had one very good patron, and she was a governess for a producer in Beverly Hills. When she came in the gallery the first time, she was looking for a landscape, and at that time I did, like I said, the landscapes, but I was doing on earth tones, browns and golds, limited palette. She says, I'm looking for a landscape, and I said, well, as you can see, I have lots of landscapes, but they're all in earth tones. She says, that's okay. She spent about 45 minutes there, and we talked about a couple of little pieces that she kind of liked. She left, and next morning, first thing she called me, she says, Larian, there's this one painting by the door we talked about. I said, yeah, I know what it is. She said, will you hang on to that? I'll be down this afternoon and pick it up. I couldn't sleep. I thought about it all night. I said, sure. So she came down and made the purchase, and about 3 weeks later she was back and she bought another. And maybe a month or so she bought another. Then she bought another. I went to see Dr. Zhivago for the first time, and when I saw that movie, and I left that movie, I was so full of this energy. My hands were just going like that. I was just, I come back to the studio and I try to do my interpretation of Dr. Zhivago at that gravesite, and it wasn't working right. And I was, you know, this was prior to my really just letting it all come in, but you got to learn to let it go. And I just, okay, it was about 2:30 in the morning, I stopped, okay, went home, went to bed, got up 6 o'clock in the morning, came back down to the studio, picked up the knife and the brush, and started doing this. And it came out. It had that feel that I wanted. But see, I had to let go of it and have it come back on its own. I was forcing it, you can't force it. Yeah. Well, she bought that painting. Then over a period of time, about 6 years, she accumulated about 32 paintings of mine. She was a fantastic person. She was about this tall, like this, just all heart, but she loved art. But I noticed that as things, the more things that I did that were not the landscape stuff, but more the visionary, the mystical, and the spirit, they follow you. Once they start on with collecting your work, then they go with you. And at more towards the end, she was going for more of the visionary. It's like, okay, you know, this happens quite often. And I've been very, very fortunate to have people buy more than one piece. They end up with a whole collection. I've had great people, and I really appreciate it. And that you need those people. I got back to Beulah. When I did she says, whenever you do something, you know what I like, you call me first. Right? I said, sure, no problem. Every time I would do a piece that I knew that was for her, it was like I was doing it for her. I didn't have her in mind, but it was the spirit part that she was connecting with, and I knew what she was interested in. So I'd Beulah, you got to see this piece. And sure enough, she'd come down and she says, you're right, I got to have it. Right? I had done one during the Egyptian-Israeli war. I had done one, and I had about a 24 by 36. And it was kind of like a warrior in there, but very vague. A lot of this work was very mystic. I had Star of David here and had a couple of, I can't remember exactly all what it was. I hung it in the window, and all kinds of people came that day. Just, whew. But I already had it. I knew that it would belong to Beulah. I could have sold it 10 to 15 times, but I knew that painting belonged to her. She came down and she asked, and she says, "What do you want?" Well, after she's bought so many paintings, I don't even can't, it's hard to talk money to her. It just doesn't work. But she said, "I got to give you something." So I gave her a price. She wrote the check out, and I took the painting in the back and wrapped it. Come back out, and she gave me the check, and she said, "Here's another check for what it's really worth, and it's worth a lot more than this." So she gave me 2 checks. Yeah, and I said, "Oh, man, this is, this happens quite often." And the problem was she never stopped buying until she passed away. Well, it got to where, like I said about the money, it gets hard to ask for it. It really gets hard. I had another time where how people appreciate what you really do is this woman was from Chicago. They were in the cardboard box business. And she came in about like on a Tuesday and found a couple of pieces she liked. We talked. She came in a couple of days later and bought those. And we had to ship those. And I think on a Friday, she was due to leave on Saturday. She came on Friday afternoon, and she said, "I want to give you a gift. And I want to help you out." She wrote out a check for $5,000. No strings attached. When you tell these kind of stories, it's hard to believe that people like that do that. But I had people that believed. Okay, I've had shows in Las Vegas, and only because of people. Another great, they were collectors. They came in the gallery and found about 3 pieces they liked. But Melissa, I had a small piece like this, like a kind of an abstract dancers. She really liked it, but their cash was getting short, and they were getting ready to leave. And so I says, "Just take it. It's yours. You bought 3 pieces. Take it." When they came in, there was immediate connection. It was an immediate connection. And he was the kind of male that I would like to have had as a father. Because they were in their 40s, 50s. I'm in my late 20s. And I thought, God, this guy is, man, he's gentle. And they worshiped each other. Well, through them, they gave me a show in their home, introduced to their friends. And what they had in Las Vegas at the time was they had Liberty Artist Services, and what they did was set up a lot of the shows for the clubs. And they were back between LA and Las Vegas. They set up the show. We had a great show, had a great turnout. And about 6 months later, we had a show at the Tropicana Hotel and had this large gold-field room. And then again, I did a talk show, Joe Mulaney, and we had a great turnout, but these people understood what was going on. they kept connecting with all this work. But as time has gone on, like I said earlier, there's far more, I got into far more of the spiritual, mystical pieces. And it's not, a lot of people, it misses. It misses. I've had work hang in a few metaphysical library type bookstores and things, actually. And you would think that people going into there would connect. A lot of them, it didn't seem to work as well. So we try to reach that audience, and it's not easy all the time. You know, it's not easy. If you do a landscape, the majority of people they can identify with that. But if they've got to think a little or feel a little, it's a job. It seems to me, it doesn't seem to work. But it's okay, because that's what's going on. And like I say, I do that. That's what comes out now, and that's what it is. I mean, you go with it, 100%. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15, 20 years. It's a little harder when it comes to sales, but it works. It works. What else?
Question.
Ask me a question.
Did you do anything specific to start that flow? What did you change?
Yeah, you know, like I said, you know, backtracking in early stages, this type of work would come through. It just came through. It was there, and I thought, oh man, this is where it's at. This is what I've been after. I wanted this. I really wanted this. But prior to that, I went through a lot of just stuff. You know, you got to get it out of there. And but as time went on, like I said earlier, it became more and more. And I thought, ooh. And I also learned that if I was trying to force it too much, doesn't work. I backed away. I'd cross the highway and go down to the beach, and I'd take a walk on the beach and do a meditation out there, and come back. And there it was. If you get that ego and that your self-will out of there and set it aside, that's when that comes in. It's just like, it's the same thing, right? Same thing, playing the music. I first met Stephen, we met right here. And at that point, had not heard his music. But after I heard his music, I thought, there's one of those. We made a good connection, and the mystical vibration hasn't had a lot of exposure yet. We keep trying. I did do the Armory show here in December, November, and we had pretty good success with it there. I just had a small DVD player, nothing like this. And but if we could get more exposure for it, and with this, it's a continuous play. So instead of having your blank TV screen just sitting there staring at you, you pop this in there, it'll play all day long. As long as it'll play until you shut it off. There's people that, the ones that have bought so far, they bought it for different reasons. They bought it just for relaxation and for meditation, color, sound healing. I've had one fellow here, he has clients he works with, and he says, oh, I'm going to play this in the background as he does his healing with clients. You need time? Sure. Yeah, it's almost 7:30. Okay. Anyway, thank you.
How beautiful it is to be able to work with somebody like that. Wow. I've seen about 85% of you before, so I have to watch what I say. It's like preaching to the choir. You're new, yeah, okay. It's really, really fun for me to hear what he's saying about his the imagery that is not a landscape. It's not the mountains and the trees and the lakes and the rivers.
Is that mic not hot? It's not.
This one isn't on?
Well, we're not picking it up on it.
Oh, sure.
Sounds great out there.
We'll show them. Okay. When, if you look, if you look down the walls, there's black and white photography and stuff down here. And being a former photographer for 25 years, there's a whole different set of receivers that fire in your head when you're looking at black and white photography versus color photography, because you're not responding to the color. It changes how you see what you're looking at. It just takes the color out of the loop. When you're... Okay, does that work?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. When you're looking at imagery like this, it's not of something that says, "Oh yeah, okay, that's a tree, that's a flower, that's a this, that's a that," and it lets you appreciate it, if you can, from a whole different perspective. I realized what's going on with this music that I've been doing. There's a similarity in there because it's not 3-chord blues and rock and roll songs or country or whatever that have lyrics and standard format and a progression that goes verse, 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 chorus, bridge, out, whatever, that sort of thing. The songs that have the words in there tell you what sort of response you're supposed to be having, because you're not responding to the music, you're responding to the words. So what we have here is a fortuitous grouping of orchestral music that's done without an orchestra and abstract imagery that's done without a brush. Thanks to whatever, to Spirit, for the tools that allow us to implement and create that. At some point, it obviously wouldn't have been possible. Okay, that's what I had to get out. So I have been playing music for 56 years, and I don't know why this microphone just keeps one. It just goes like that. For 56 years, so during that time, there was a whole bunch of the rock and roll, blues, country, 3-chord songs and all that stuff, and playing blues festivals and you know, met famous people and never became one and all that. And it was really pretty shallow. It was just throwing handfuls of notes at an audience with the expectation that they were probably going to love it because I did it. And yeah, no ego involved there. And I finally got, in the early 90s, the keyboard technology got to where there was a piano sound and an orchestra, and I went, wow, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I kind of segued back out of the photography, back into music, and found the tool to achieve that. And it was still those blues songs and that same stuff, because that's what was going on in here. And little by little, there was a desire that came through to do just the instrumental orchestral music, no words. And I started doing that, and over about a 10-year period, there were 3 CDs that I finally got done. And I was trying to use the music as the vehicle for personal spiritual expansion. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. It's like eating a whole bunch of food and trying to lose weight because of that. That didn't work. You know, it's all backwards. I put the music down and went to, put the music down and went to the mountain. There was a mountain up north of Spokane, Washington, to do a vision quest, which was a 4-day fast, normally done by Native American boys when they're like 13 or 14. I was 50-something at the time, so my approach was a little bit different than that. But it was still going to be the 4-day deal. The people that were hosting this found a site for me, and they said the cool thing is you can do anything you want here because you're so far away from the base camp that no one will be able to hear you anything. And I thought, great, that'll work. And she said the bad part of that is if it all goes south, you're on your own because we can't hear you if you scream for help. So that's perfect too. That's perfect too. Because all of a sudden you're responsible for what you're doing. It's like stepping off the curb in Cusco, in Peru. You're responsible because those cars aren't going to stop. Pedestrians don't have the right of way, and all of a sudden you get to think about what you're doing a little bit differently. So I took my drum, a hand drum, and I went to this huge, huge, huge rock that was there at my questing site, started drumming and asking for my connection to spirit. And to abbreviate the story, it finally happened. There was, I just stepped right out of this body and into this huge boulder. And it was like Jodie Foster in Contact when she was down on the beach and she was touching the sky and it would ripple like you stick your finger in a mud puddle, and it was doing that. And it was inside the rock, and it was this gray, soft, spongy, see-through material. I could turn around and see this body out there going like that, crying its eyes out, drumming away. There was no sound. There was no sound from inside the rock. There was no odor from outside. There was no sound from outside. All of your senses, your sensory apparatus is still functioning, but it's a whole different world. It's like the one that you use probably when you're dreaming instead of the one you're using when you're wide awake. During that, in the rock thing, the out of body in the rock was a visitation from 30 entities that were gold, floating, shimmering, looked kind of like see-through mylar kind of stuff, that had the most incredible energy around them. It was absolutely magical. And there were downloads. There were downloads after downloads after downloads that happened. There were things that you will no longer have an attachment to outcome, and nothing that you do out there really matters, and on and on and on. And it's been, I don't know what, 5, 6 years, and I'm still integrating stuff from that moment. I have no idea how long that part of the thing lasted. While still in that rock, there was the experience of The only thing I can think of is the light at the end of the tunnel that people experience during a near-death experience. Only there wasn't anything other than ego dying. There was an incredible ego death going on right there at that point. And that light, it was incredibly bright, and it was totally surrounding. And I understood it at that moment to be love, divine love, that was so intense it became visible as that light, so I could like get a grip on it a little bit just to be able to comprehend it. All of that gradually subsided and came back to where I stepped back out of the rock, still out there doing this. And one would pray that that would happen during the end of a 4-day vision quest. And I looked at my watch, and including the time it took to set up my tent, I was an hour and a half into the whole thing. So the pump had been primed. I'd been putting spoonfuls of water in the pump for like 40 years, and I finally put the right cupful in, yanked the handle, and it all busted loose. It was incredible. The purpose of that story, there's a twofold, or maybe just a one, or maybe a no-fold, I don't know. But it's to encourage other people in the creative world, which ultimately I've come to understand is everybody doing anything, whatever it is. Anything that anyone does is a creative endeavor that can be supplemented, guided by, and essentially brought forth from spirit instead of from ego to do, here's my world's best biscuits. Well, no, they aren't. Let spirit bake them instead, and now they're just amazing. After that, and a following sweat lodge prayer to find my life's work, asking that to come through. Songs came through automatically, spontaneously, for 8 people that were in the sweat lodge where those prayers were put out. And I came to understand those as heart songs. They came from the inside, from the core essence of people, of the individuals. After that, there were 12 CDs recorded in 18 months instead of 3 over 10 years. And it sounds very similar to what Larian was doing. I don't know that it is. It's such a subjective experience. I don't know if anybody can say, well, yeah, I had that same thing, or this was just like that, or whatever. Once you manage to peel away enough of the shell, enough of the ego, surrender, 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 surrender. Keep doing that. That's what I've been doing ever since. And surrender the desire to do more music, and surrender the desire for existence. It's not really throwing it away, and it's not surrender as in failure, surrender to an enemy. I'm basically, for me, surrendering to spirit. Everything that comes through other than divine love, I'm keeping that. And the music that started happening because of that is a very similar, I think, flow type of pattern where it just floods. There's been like 200 of these songs somewhere in that neighborhood of these songs that have come through. And when Larian brought up the idea for what's been going on behind us here, trust came in, and without any real conscious forethought as to which ones would fit. Okay, we've got this, we got that, and blah, blah, blah. Didn't even look at that. I just went through and chose X number of songs that were what they were from all kinds of different CDs that had been recorded. And turns out it's, 64 minutes? something like that, which is like the perfect timing. And all the songs kind of got along with each other. So at this point, I would like to add some of that music to this, so you can get an idea of what it is. I'll do that live from out here. Play amongst yourselves for a moment while I get this right. Another explanation, I was playing at a church in Santa Fe a while back, and I made the comment when I got up there. I said, you know, I don't know anything about music, and this lady sitting in the front row, so what are you doing up there then? I don't have a musical training kind of thing at all. There's no history of lessons. I never took music lessons. I don't practice. I don't know scales from Shinola, and I have no idea what music theory even means. The point of that is, again, just to encourage creative people. You don't have to learn how to do this stuff. You have to learn how to get yourself out of the way far enough to just let it show up. All you got to do is be a hollow bone. Frank Fool's Crow, Lakota holy man. Those are his words. Become a hollow bone, and spirit comes through. Become a conduit, and spirit comes through.
Well, everybody, this would be a good time to come back and get in the seats. Make sure your tables are in their full locked position. And the seats, if we start now, we'll get more of the action before we have to start. If we have to finish at 9 o'clock sharp, so we'll be able to get going then. This mic is hot, and the switches are. Do you want to have it not on? Yeah.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Is it there? Cool, it's there. All right. Look, no Mr. Dual microphone stuff. I can just have one that hides my whole face if I hold it like this, because then the video looks really good. So questions and answers. Somebody's got to have at least one of each. Hands up, please. Yes, yes.
What are we looking at in the art? What are we looking at? Is it on? Is it on? What are we looking at with the art? Is it your paintings one after another, or something you created especially for this video?
No, like I said earlier, is this on?
Yes.
Okay. I started, in this piece here, there's about 43 images, all digitally done. They're small files, and then there's a program that you can, to make the video part. And we didn't want a slideshow. We wanted this to move and turn and twist and go with the music. So there, like I say, there are 43 images used to make this.
So it's digital art.
Pardon me?
It's digital art.
Yes.
Is that what you're doing primarily
Yes.
now?
It's all, everything, this whole thing is digital all the way through, right? Yeah, everything's digital.
But I mean, as an artist, is this primarily your method now?
Yes, yes, now it is. Yeah, for about the last 8 years.
Just to follow up of that question, so these are 43 two-dimensional images that are run through software to make it look continuous? Is
Yes,
that- Okay.
yes. Like I say, I do one, set it aside, do another one, set it aside, did another one, set it. I was just doing it. They just kept coming, and as long as they kept coming, I kept doing them. And ended up with, there's about 50-some images of this series in this pure color abstract work. But
On the non-technical side, though maybe it's body technical side, this could be either of you, could you describe what your body and what your mind feel like or are doing when you know something special is coming through?
And we look at each other like artists in the headlights going, oh. How do we say that? What it feels like in the body when this comes through, is that the basic?
And in your mind.
And in your mind.
What that feels like. It obviously isn't the same as when you're filling out your tax forms.
It isn't? Do you have that?
It's more of it's something that more or less comes from the heart. That's why it's hard to describe that feeling, that creative energy, that flow, whatever.
You kind of disappear, or you're out of the way?
You're out of the way. Yeah, you're just,
Yeah.
this is just happening. You're just there.
Observing it.
Yeah, you're out
Yeah.
of the way, but the feeling that's in there is like the first time you fell in love. It's that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
It's like this bliss, this warmth, this serenity, this I don't even have to be here consciously kind of thing. And it floats. These are a little bit of they're not left brain linear straight line words, because none of the left brain linear straight line wording will describe the experience, but you can't tell somebody what it feels like to be in love. But you can use an analogy, assuming, I would hope that everybody in the room has had at least one chance at that, so you have that kind of a feeling, and it's very similar to that. It's a serene passion that there's absolutely nothing in the universe that isn't perfect at that moment. Everything is right. Everything is right. You can get that doing this, you can get that with a cat on your lap. Doesn't really make any difference what you're doing. Did that even begin to address it? It's past that. It's past that, but I don't have the words to do that.
It's almost like walking about 3 inches off the ground.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of floating.
Yeah, it's a floating, for sure. For sure. When we were just in Peru and I was following Jorge Luis Delgado, a shaman, author, tour guide company owner, hotel owner, just really cool guy. And every now and then I would see a part of his footprint in the ground. He was like a block ahead of me going up this trail, and the ground was just soft enough. And I was wishing at that time that I could do that 3-inch levitation, to be able to physically move through nature and leave absolutely nothing. Not step on the grass, not step on anything, just to be able to float across the surface of it. And it's very much like that, doing this kind of stuff. Mothers probably know that feeling when you hold the little one. I'm not a mother. It's probably a good thing. So I'm not sure that's a direct analogy, but I would assume it could be pretty close to that feeling. Another question or another answer. Answers are fine. Somebody's got to have something they want to know. Sure.
So the heart song process, I bought the Synchronicities, which says
Okay.
it was 9 people's heart songs that you put together. What does that mean?
The heart songs are what started spontaneously coming through after asking for my life's work to present itself in that sweat lodge. That was a Friday night sweat lodge. Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, bam, 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 bam. There were 8 songs that came through, one after another, in about a 2 to 3 hour time period. And something told me to press record. And when I realized there was one for each person that was in that sweat lodge, and I thought, that's the answer. That's the life work. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And made copies of these and gave them to everybody that was involved in that. And I said, this was all spontaneous. It isn't something I would do. It's a little bit invasive, psychically invasive, to do something like that without someone's permission or knowledge. But I said, these didn't come through that way. These just all showed up, so here's yours. And the responses were all the way from, oh, that's cute, to one person just finally woke up, had a true awakening from hearing their musical essence, or their essence as music.
So because you have an instrument, you can push record. You don't have to remember it.
Right.
Okay.
I never hear them before. They happen, and they're all recorded first take.
Yeah, I
No
used
editing.
to play I used to pay people's vibration on a flute,
Okay,
but once it was played, it was gone.
right.
So the recording
Right.
thing might be good.
Yeah, the recording thing is cool. And it doesn't have to be some monstrous studio complex thing that kills all of the creativity because you're messing about with too many little buttons and knobs and sliders and stuff like that, especially with a flute. You can get a microphone and go straight into a computer and do it. Done deal. Software is $29. I'll give you the name of the company afterwards. The microphone just moved to somewhere else. But there was a hand up back there someplace.
So I'm curious about something because as I understand it, the process that you two went through in making this was a handoff of already created songs to Larian, and I'm wondering if there would be another round where you'd be, maybe the artwork would be created and you, Stephen, would be looking at the artwork, and it seems like there's a next level possibly of integrating sound that could, whatever, is there, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun to do. Who knows? Who knows what would come of that? You know, how I have no idea how that would turn out. I have no idea how the next song is going to happen after I do one anyway. So the first one I played tonight is not on the DVD, but it didn't really make any difference.
Right.
It seems to just
So-
kind of fall together and segue in there. I don't know. I can't honestly say it would shift it one way or another.
So is it true that what you played then really wasn't just you kind of tuning into this? It was you already. That's something that is in your bag already also.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
'Cause it really hung together well with the
Yeah.
with the video.
Yeah. That's a natural occurrence when you're creating anything and your head is not part of the process. I can't explain it. There's goosebumps on my arms just thinking about it. There's something that happens. A lot of you know this. It's a very subjective thing. You know it in your own fashion, how it plugs into whatever it is you're doing. That now that I open my mouth, I don't know how to finish that statement.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah, thank you, Mitzi. That's perfect. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a mystery.
Yeah.
But it's. I'm trying to save myself and I can't, so I'll just go outside for a while.
Being a good receiver.
Being a good receiver and yeah, or just a receiver. Spirit seems to make the determination, and I think the determination would be a green light that everyone would be a good receiver on any level. My bottom line is you don't have to sit down and learn how to play piano to do this kind of stuff, because I never did. And that's assuming that you like the music, but you don't have to do that either. It may, in yours, anybody's estimation, not be good, and that's cool. So if I say I don't know anything about music, and the lady says, well, what are you doing up there? And then afterwards she says, yeah, you're right, you don't, and she leaves. That happens. That's fine. I don't have an attachment to it at all, except for the fun of doing it. The fun of doing it and trying to feed something back. Wow, another deep one. Trying to reflect some of that divine essence back to the divine. And boy, that's trying is kind of like that's all it's going to be. I don't think it's possible to do a pure. For me, so far, it's not been possible to do a pure reflection of the divine back to the divine, because there is a physical body carrying this consciousness around. But my goal in life is absolute unity with the divine. So this feeds that. And so does jabbering to everybody here about this. I really appreciate the opportunity. Okay, more answers. Do you need the mic again?
No, more music.
Oh, more music. Okay, we can do that. Any more questions? Sure, there's one.
The piece you played, were you necessarily looking at it on the computer while you played?
No.
So the inspiration is just sort of all internal?
No, the piece that I played is a song off a CD that was done since we did this project. There was no forethought given to that, so that's what was wanting to be played, so that's what got played. When we did this, the songs that were put on here were from already existing recordings that I had done. And it seems to...
Does it match itself?
Yes, thank you, good term, it matches itself. No forethought as to order, from this CD, from that CD, this one, that one, that one, that one, that one, click, done, burn a CD, here, that should work, and it did. It's like, okay, huh?
Intuitive.
Yeah, intuitive, yeah, it isn't something that you have to give a whole bunch of conscious thought to.
Well, it is an incredible marriage between the art and the music. You know, the audio and the visual, it has such a depth and dimension.
Yeah.
And, you know, I see that the healing quality in this kind of form can have so many different connotations in so many different places, nursing homes, and passing it to somebody who's ill. I think it can be really transformative for them, and I applaud your work both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is really fun to work with somebody like this. Yeah, it really is. Somebody that can come up with something that matches in a totally different vein so well. It's rare. It's rare. It's like the right perfect relationship. Thank God I've got that. That helps a lot. I don't do tax forms very well.
That's why we had to come to Ashland.
Yes.
Make it happen.
Yeah. So, more questions. One question.
I'm noticing how the storytelling by both of you is also a part of the art form that we're experiencing tonight. And I really appreciate that. I think it's a little different than listening to the music or watching the DVD.
Yeah.
It's like performance art tonight, where we hear your stories of how this happened.
Yeah.
I'm loving that. Thanks.
Yeah. The story helps comprehension. It helps to understand. It makes it more understandable what, where the song came from, where the art comes from. Yeah, it's easier it's easier to appreciate it. Yeah. And you had a question.
I'm just gonna wonder if you've had any more art gallery shows lately, or just do you do it at the craft fairs now, or?
Yeah, I do the
have any of
artisans. I do the artisans market on the weekends.
Have you brought any of your landscapes too, or is it just have you kind of let go?
I have
of
a
that?
combination.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right, but all the work is all digital now. There's no out here brush work or
Do you miss the
work.
brush work or anything?
Not really. No, it's
Don't have any
you
fumes
know, even
that
though
way.
it's all this. I always say if Leonardo da Vinci would have had a computer, we would have
my.
seen fabulous work.
Yeah.
It would have been beyond, because what the computer has done for it's opened up a lot of.
Yeah.
If you have, everybody's got creativity in them. All you do is just open up to it. And with this technology, it just expanded it tenfold. And it's just, I can do, like I said, I can do anything right here, in this little area right here, and I need a whole big studio over here with all these and all that, 10 times more.
Okay. Any more questions? Good. Nobody asked for things like the meaning of life or any of that stuff.
Well, this is this on? This is a maybe answer. But
Okay, cool.
It keeps going through my mind, so I'm going to say it out loud, which is that perhaps when the divine is playing to the divine through you, that's when the goosebumps happen.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you. Yeah. So should we do some more?
Well, I have an answer for you, okay?
Excellent. I love answers.
Because for 35 years, I taught people how to work with their angels, and we always said, your angels are the only ones who can give you goosebumps. Any vibration higher angels and above, because down here we have too much body weight to carry around, and they have a higher frequency, so that's why we get goosebumps.
That's a good answer. Thank you. One thing I've noticed about this, back in the 60s, when we were, playing, slamming loud, huge rock and roll things out of big Hammond organs and stuff like that in bands, there was a guy up in a booth hanging off the rafters in the ceiling with a couple overhead projectors and some glass pie plates filled with colored water and oil and everything else. And it's like this whole thing has become the marriage of that now. Instead of the light show that was going on the wall behind the band I was in way back then. It's all morphed around to this. So this song is one that is on the DVD. It's from the Heart Song of the Buffalo album. When this kind of music or creativity or art starts to come through, it comes through from some very interesting different places. And these songs came through from the Yellowstone buffalo herd, sitting with them off and on for 7 years. Thanks. The songs are incredibly inspired by the place, the energy of the place as well. Thank you. And we just got back. Carolyn and I went to Machu Picchu, and we took a little backpack recording studio, which was this laptop and a short keyboard and some other solar-powered things with us. And sitting in Machu Picchu during 2 days, we got 10 songs to come through. We recorded them there. The melodies are recorded, and they're waiting for the cash flow that's already on its way to bring me the new keyboard, and then sometime this summer or fall we'll have that CD done. And we're going to Assisi in Italy in June, and the same recording thing is going to go to the monastery in Assisi and see what happens there. Should be incredibly fun. So, yes. Sure. Machu Picchu was incredible. Anybody that's been there has probably used the same words on that. The experience of being there, nothing, my estimation, nothing prepares you for stepping around that hillside for your first view of Machu Picchu. It's just like, I don't know, maybe it's that thing where there's a lot of anticipation going on. So it's like it's prime the pump, and it's all built up. And you step around the corner, and it's like, oh my God, this place really exists. And it's a very, very humbling experience to stand there. And it takes a while to kind of soak it up and just let your head play with what's being presented in front of you. Ultimately, I think for me, the strongest energy was sitting in Machu Picchu, which is on a mountaintop, and it's essentially surrounded by other mountaintops. And it was not so much the energy that was coming through from being right there, but as the energy that was coming through from seeing, from coming through from these other mountains and in the clouds and the forests and everything. I don't know if that even made any sense. It was absolutely magical to go there. Go in the off season, sleep in, take the bus up late. All the tourists are gone by 2 o'clock, and it was like 3 in the afternoon. It was Carol and me, half a dozen quiet people, and a bunch of birds, and it was like, yeah, this is nice. It was really nice. It was like having the place essentially all to yourself. It was wonderful. As was most of Peru. The entities that were there in the Vision Quest were on a mountainside outside of Cusco, in the middle of dinner, sitting in a balcony eating away, and I looked up and all of a sudden I'm in full meltdown. There they are. Yeah, the mystical spiritual experience for me is just, it rocks. It's so much fun. I never know when, where, what's going to happen. The experience does seem to be somewhat relative to the amount of effort you put forth. You know, like if you want it to happen, you can ask for it to happen, or you can just immerse yourself into whatever it takes, asking it to happen more and more and more and more. And the more energy you put into that, the more magnificent it all gets. Which brings us up to right close to the end. I want to thank you for all being here. Thank you, Larian, for being part of this. I really appreciate that. And a huge thank you to the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library. I love this place. They have such an incredible resource here, and all the Tuesday night things going on, all of the workshops, and I don't know how many of those videos I've seen in there, but it's been a lot. Whole bunches of them. Anyway, blessings to you all. Thanks for coming. Yes, please help put the chairs back. Fold them up and bring them up to the door if you would. That helps a lot. Thank you.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax-deductible. This recording is not copyrighted and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.